Welcome. It's our Halloween. It's 2022.
Welcome.
And we couldn't think of anything better to talk about than Hellraiser 2022.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. It should be more like somber, like, with our Dark Lords are here.
Hell yeah.
We're talking about Halloween 2022.
I said we open with the...
That's why we got the red light, because of the blood.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it now.
Everything's all asunder.
Sometimes Forrest needs things explained to him.
Yeah, like why Ozzy made a song called Hellraiser that has nothing to do with Hellraiser, but is on the Hellraiser 3 soundtrack anyway.
Don't question it. It doesn't. He got paid. That's what matters to me.
Hellraiser! Which is weird, too, because that's always the canonical music for the dead. It's heavy metal.
Yeah, but he's also the Prince of Bubbles.
Yeah. Sharon Bubbles.
Sharon! I'm the Prince of fucking Darkness.
The Prince of fucking Darkness. I knew a thing.
So it's a new Hellraiser, and...
Oh, it was so good. Okay, I'm hyping it up. It wasn't that great, but it was...
Motherfucker, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I give it a 10 out of 10.
No. I mean, like, I can sit back and look at it and go, I really enjoyed that movie. I'm not going to get up and do a bunch of jumping jacks going, oh my god, it was so great.
And you know what's weird about it, too, from my perspective, is I'm one of those people who analyzes movies on first viewing.
Oh, yeah.
The more I analyze this movie, the better it gets.
Okay, that's good to hear. Because
like,
you normally hate everything.
I like Sonic 2. It was pretty good.
What's your two favorite movies? Sonic 2, and you're like, oh, yeah. And you're like, Hellraiser. 2022.
What did you guys think about them changing from a male Pinhead to a female Pinhead? Did it bother any of you?
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you say yours first.
No.
Okay. So, yeah.
It didn't bother me at all.
Pinhead is described as genderless in the book, but has the voice of an excited schoolgirl. That's Pinhead in the book. Pinhead's not even the lead Cenobite in the book. The lead Cenobite's name is First Engineer, which is a weird fucking thing.
Yeah, but that's cool, because they engineer sensation.
I guess.
Or pain.
I don't know why. I don't think they ever say. But yeah, no. So the only gender flip that really would work would be Pinhead. And they fucking nailed it.
I honestly at first thought that it was going to bother me. I honestly thought, like, the idea of Pinhead in my head has always been what it is, or
Doug
what
Bradley.
It was. Yes. And seeing her do it just like, this feels natural. Like, there is no... It
didn't feel forced.
Yeah, it didn't feel like they were
no,
trying
it
to
flowed
push
well.
something.
And there's a regency, like a regal awareness. I mean, the only way to describe this version of Pinhead, and maybe the other one too, is just like a high priest.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah. They even call her the priest in the credits.
Right,
She's not called Pinhead. I love the reverence for that.
That's cool.
Well,
there's a lot of stuff here that you guys would not have noticed, but because I'm such a huge fan, I'll point it out. But
hear that we're not good enough.
That's
not knowledgeable enough.
I actually, in the original, that's the way he's credited too. He's lead Cenobite, not any. He's not credited as Pinhead. I don't
Commander
think
Cenobite.
He's not known as Pinhead until later in the series.
Till the third one,
right? But everyone was calling him Pinhead. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Terry Farrell's like, "Hey, Pinhead," and that's how he gets that name. So,
So it's about a girl who is struggling with
story
drug
of a girl
who cried a river and drowned the whole world. But she has a problem with drug addiction, and she entwines her brother into it and his boyfriend. And I really thought that, like, I didn't really understand, like, what they were going to do with it until, like, I really thought that she was going to be blamed for everything.
Yeah, you figured they were going to go the typical route of, well, we don't believe you. And it's like, no, we realize you have a problem. We'll just go with it.
Yeah. But
should we have are we going to go into pretty heavy discussion?
Spoiler warning.
I'm going to tear this movie.
Yeah,
I'm going to tear its
I'm just
soul
saying,
apart.
we should have prefaced with spoiler warning.
We should have.
Well, we should have prefaced, not prefaced.
Whatever.
So from here on out, if you're still watching, if you're still listening, there's a heavy spoiler warning coming with this. So it all boils into a lot of deceit and a lot of treachery and a lot of backstabbing in a way. But the girl and her addiction, like, I could see this like, as soon as I seen that the girl had, was struggling with an addiction, I really thought that it was going to play more of a crucial role in what was going on.
I would like to hold off until the end for that discussion, because the theme of addiction is not explored well enough, and I will tell you exactly. Boy, you're going to love what I have to say about it. But we'll save that for a little bit later, I think.
Maybe I'll just enjoy it. Maybe I won't love it.
Maybe. I'll give a warning, too. Be like, it's a Forrest rant warning. If you want to skip it, go fuck yourself.
You can't. We've disabled the skip button on your device.
But
you will hear me out.
So to lay the groundwork for the movie, it really starts off with a guy named Roland Voigt. And he is trying to find pleasure in ways that most humans would not be looking. And in the process of it, he finds this puzzle box and he starts making sacrifices to the puzzle box. And we later learn out what the reason for the sacrifices, but in the beginning of it, you have no clue. You're just like, it's weird because, he has that first guy, or we see one of the guys interact with it, and it takes him, which isn't like Hellraiser at all. Like, that's not how it worked in the first one. Did it work that way in the second one? I can't remember.
No, actually, because in the first one, Kirsty solves it, and distinctly Pinhead's like, well, you solved it, you're fucked.
Right.
Contract is bound.
Right.
In the second one, they get a little girl to solve it, and Pinhead they show up, and the female Cenobite's like, well, you're fucked, kid, time to come with us. And Pinhead's like, no, it's not hands that call us, it's desire.
Right.
And he looks right at the doctor who had her do it.
And that was going to make that distinction. That was what I brought up pre-show. That was the one major thing I wanted to discuss lore-wise. Because the doctor used her to do it because he didn't want to do it himself.
He wasn't smart enough. In the original, you had to have intelligence to...
Okay.
That's why he had so many people working on the boxes.
Right.
But only one little girl could solve it because she had the brain power to do it.
Right, okay.
His whole institute was a front so he could find people to open this box.
Right, okay.
I don't know how Kirsty opened it in the first one, or how Frank opened it.
Luck.
So,
if you have to be that intelligent, then it's just luck.
But he knew what he was getting into. It was like he knew what it was. He lit the candles. He put himself in the middle of it.
Yep.
So he had to have some knowledge over what it was.
Well, from the book's perspective, Frank knows exactly what it is, but he doesn't know exactly what it does. He falls into the trap that anybody who is desensitized... Because here's the thing. The people who look for this box, actively look for, are the kinds of people who have done all the sex positions till they're bored, all the drugs till they can't feel anything. They've done everything humanly possible to feel pleasure.
They have no pleasure in life now.
Their dopamine is completely gone. They have nothing left.
Right.
So they look for a box because they're desperate to feel it again. They want that high. They just don't realize that what that high is a way higher than they can tolerate.
What you're really looking for.
Yeah.
Or what they have to offer. Angels to some, demons to others.
And what I love that line particularly because that means there are some people who like it.
And that's my point, and I bet those are most of the Cenobites. I bet a lot of them were someone who just, it was perfect. It was what they wanted. And then you would have to assume, that someone like Pinhead, since he's in charge, you could only, once again, and it's an assumption, but just by looking at the way they're organized, he would have to have been the one that was absolutely the most into it.
You would think, wouldn't you? They don't ever really go into it, but in the third movie, they explore his backstory. And it's like,
I remember that.
He was a World War I or World War II British commander, and he just happened to find the box, and he just happened to open it. I don't think he knew what it was.
Right.
But I think, I vaguely recall someone mentioning that he was so desensitized from the war, he wanted to feel something.
Okay.
That's why he did it.
Well, and that trap, I don't want to get too far ahead because we're kind of going step by step.
A little bit, yeah.
But yes, angels to some, demons to others. So of course, like anything, how many times does anyone in real life think they want something, and then once they get boots on the ground, they're like, no, I don't like this at all. This is not what I wanted. So if that's the case, then maybe instead of him enjoying it the most, maybe it causes him the most suffering. So then therefore he's promoted to leader.
That could be. I always took it as he was the sadist. He liked inflicting the pain more than receiving it.
Okay.
That's always how I took it. Or maybe he's just the most loyal to Leviathan.
Right. What does the book say?
He's a girl in the book, and he shows up twice, not much.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot, yeah.
He's implied to be a girl.
Right.
The book is it's only 120 pages, I think. I read it in an
Yeah, it's a novella.
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah.
And it leaves a lot of details out because it wants you to imply things yourself.
Right.
Like, it's like, yeah. It even opens, like, with the line or something, Frank took his massive cock in his hands and jerked off while he was feeling excruciating. Like, okay.
All right. It sounds like kind of the books my grandma used to read.
Yeah, I read one of those once. It wasn't pleasant. So I don't know if these were direct, intentional things, but there are a couple small things about Clive Barker that made it into the movie. One, Clive Barker's gay. And it just happens.
I didn't know that.
Just happens that there's a gay couple in it.
Okay.
Secondly, before he started writing books, Clive Barker was a male prostitute for older women.
Ah.
You notice how the movie opens with a male prostitute who talks to a very seductive older woman?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if that's intentional, but I feel like it's, at the very least, an odd coincidence.
So, with those two things, and Clive Barker's personality and history, it almost makes me wonder if... Because he has this horror. I mean, he understands horror, and especially body horror.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wonder if any of that in his past had anything to do with that.
I would almost guarantee it.
Well, I mean, and nothing negative, but like, look at H.R. Geiger's work. It's all sex.
Yeah, it's all dicks and vag.
Yeah.
So, but to be fair, this movie was directed by David Bruckner.
Mm-hmm.
And it was screenplayed by Ben Collins and Luke Pietrowski. I'm not really good
You
at
butchered
names,
it.
but
He's coming for us.
David S. Goyer, and both of them worked on the story for it. So
I was afraid that David S. Goyer would fuck it up somehow.
Yeah, normally everything he's involved in, there's something about it I don't enjoy.
He did the first Blade. So there's one movie you probably don't have much against.
No, I enjoy it, but Blade falls under guilty pleasure as well. Like, I just watch it because it's a ridiculous, over-the-top action movie. I'm not watching Blade for its intellectual questions that it poses to me about the dichotomy between the light and the dark and vampires. And
you watch it because Wesley Snipes is blowing motherfuckers apart.
and he kills people with a sword.
Get you fuckers at a bad time.
We got off topic.
That's what this movie needed, Whistler.
But it doesn't look like he worked on much of it. I mean, he produced, but it doesn't look like Clive Barker actually worked on.
To my knowledge, he just gave it its blessing.
He gave it the blessing, and the same thing with the Pinhead actor.
Oh, Doug Bradley?
Doug Bradley, I couldn't remember his name.
They wanted him in a cameo, but he declined.
Yeah.
And after like 8 sequels, I can't blame him.
No, I don't blame him either. But it was cool that he was like, hey, do your thing. And they didn't want to step, and they didn't want to be disrespectful. They just wanted to take a different turn.
And I'm willing to bet that he read the script. Like, I would not be surprised if he read the script and said, if they do it right, this will be good. But otherwise, they are doing a bunch of wrong things. Because remember, not only did he star in a bunch of shitty sequels, there were 2 sequels afterwards that did not star him because he refused to be in them.
Yeah, he was done playing the character at that point.
So I cannot blame him one bit for not wanting to do
Most
this.
actors don't want to get typecast anyway. Oh, you're the horror movie actor. Oh, you're the rom-com actor. Oh,
Andrew Robinson, he didn't want to be a villain in the first Hellraiser because he didn't want to be typecast. I get a kick out of that because he ended up playing the villain halfway through. Doug Bradley, he's more into his character than like even Robert Englund was into Freddy Krueger and Kane Hodder was into Jason. That's one of his favorite people he's ever played. I love how into it he is. We're still getting off topic.
Yeah, so we're good at that.
Yeah, stay on topic. So the movie centers around one girl, and it's kind of, her name's Riley, and it's kind of weird that, you know, they kind of focus on her at first. I thought, like, oh, great, she's going to be, you know, it's going to be easy to throw her away. You know, that's how I felt at first. When she first came on screen, she's got an addiction, there's something wrong in her life, she's just a mess. And I honestly thought, like, this is just going to be a throwaway character who, good riddance. But after those first scenes with her, like, you start to realize, like, she's just trying to grasp onto anything she can get her hands on. Like, she's trying to make something in her life work. And, you know, even dealing with sobriety between drugs and alcohol, like, that's something I can't fathom.
Well,
having
she's
to do.
dating a guy from her 12-step program.
Right.
I mean, if that isn't red flags and flares shooting off, I don't know what is.
And her and Trevor have kind of a mixed relationship too, because you can tell that it's not serious, but at the same time, it's maybe what they need as well, because you can tell that he's got issues, and later find out that he does,
but not the issues you think he does.
That's exactly right.
I love it though. The interesting thing about their relationship to me is he does, despite what you find out later, he does do everything in his power to keep her alive. He actively tries everything possible to keep her from dying. She is just not having it.
Well, we'll have to come to it because it's a short spoiler, but she's running towards something with reckless abandon. That's why, especially when someone's like that in the state she's in at that time, you need a wrangler. You need someone to pull on the reins and be like, "That's a cliff."
And now that her brother's not there anymore, someone has to step in.
That was
That's also a contrast to that too, because if he really was doing everything to protect her, he would have never let her walk out of there with that box to begin with.
No, but notice every point from then on, he's like, throw it away, give it away, do not keep it, get rid of it. Because the more shit that happens around it, the more wary he becomes of it. You notice he never touches it, not once.
No, he stays away from it. And there was one thing I noticed too, is I'm wondering if he even knew. He had to have known it was real.
Oh, he knew.
Because of Roland.
Yeah.
After seeing Roland in the state that he's in.
I think at this point we just got to put a spoiler warning on it.
We did earlier.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
We started off with the spoilers.
Okay, so good. I don't feel bad about saying this.
Yeah, we're bouncing around a lot because we're not very good at keeping track of shit.
But yeah, no. I just love the idea that even though he was hired to get this girl killed, she's just supposed to be the first victim. There was no other reason for her to exist in Roland's world. But Trevor, the movie opens with them fucking, and he says, "I love you." That is a foreshadowing that even though he's clearly the bad guy, because I called it early on.
Did you?
Well, yeah. And I'll tell you when I first called it, he wasn't the one to break the lock on the safe, even though he was bigger and stronger. He did not touch the thing, meaning he believed in it.
Okay.
No matter how stupid it sounded, nobody else really believed her.
Right.
He believed her. He believed it was a fucked up thing.
But he didn't let on like he believed her, though.
But he also never did any drugs. He never took a single pill. He took a swig of whiskey early in the movie, and that's it.
Yeah, I thought it was a beer.
Flask.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I'm like, there's something not right about this guy. I didn't quite know his role, but I knew he is not to be trusted.
When they went in to go break into the facility, he took a swig of out of it.
Well, and that was him not really calming his nerves, but like coping with the fact that he's about to start something bloody.
Yeah.
And he knew. And he wasn't some guy that got suckered into it, and they're like, "Hey, I'll pay you a lot of money if you have someone." That's, because Roland could have come to him and been like, through email, "Hey, they have my property. I want you to steal it."
Yeah.
And then pay him a lot of money and then fool him. But he didn't. He was like, "Hey."
He wanted the direct route. This thing's in me. Get it the fuck out of me. You will do as I ask.
I'll we're not making, if you haven't seen it, or
if you haven't,
you would have to have seen it at this point. If you're listening to us ramble about, you had to have seen it.
Or you just like me a lot.
I don't know who would, but whatever. Continue.
It's so to push the plot further, Riley has taken possession of this puzzle box that her and Trevor have broken into this building to find. And Trevor tells her to hold on to it because maybe they'll find somebody to fence it.
To buy, right. Ooh, good word.
And so Riley holds on to it. And while Riley's holding on to it, of course, she has a lot of drama and issues go on. Her and her brother get into this fight. And she leaves because she's living with her brother and his boyfriend.
And the roommate.
Oh, yeah, they do have a roommate, don't they?
Yeah, it's easy to forget that.
It is easy to forget her, and I feel bad too because I felt so bad for her later in the movie.
Well, she's cannon fodder.
So Riley leaves, and in the process of Riley leaving, she is just completely she's like a tornado in a trailer park. She's just constantly making bad decision after bad decision.
But she's a force of nature about it. Like, she's so convinced until it fucks up, and then she's like, oh, I made a mistake. But this move is not a... Oh, shit, it was a mistake. Yeah. That's all she is. She is a flow of bad decisions that she thinks are good at the time.
So Riley decides to, I don't know, indulge in her...
She gets high.
Indulge in pills and alcohol and goes to the park that's right by where she's got her car parked. And her brother
Who
starts...
was running around a city at 3 a.m.? I mean, that's a bad choice to begin with.
Right.
Yeah. I like how she had to park her fucking car like a block away because of, what are they, in New York? That's what it feels like, New York.
Yeah, it looks like they never state, but
No.
it's a big damn city. It could be Toronto for all we know.
Vancouver.
So Riley gets messed up and is playing around on a merry-go-round or laying down on a merry-go-round, and in the process of it starts to play with the puzzle box.
Just real quick, I love the cinematography in this movie. It's excellent. That scene in particular gave me some real Ginger Snaps vibes. I don't know why, but I remember when they're in the park and they get bit in Ginger Snaps. It felt a lot like that scene.
Gotcha.
So Riley unlocks it, and it starts to transform, and in the process of it, her brother pops up. And, of course...
Well, part of the trap is the knife that comes out of the puzzle box, and it by cutting you and damaging you, taking the blood, it marks you.
And what I love, I'm gonna keep interjecting because there's tiny bits that I adore. In modern movies, if anybody else had written and directed this, they'd have been like, "Oh well, she knew their knife was gonna come out, so she moved her fingers." No, she just happened to not be in the way.
Well, it's because she was fucked up.
I just love that she just...
That's the dichotomy of it. She's completely inebriated, and that, in essence, at the time, saved her life.
Yeah.
But doomed someone else.
And I have to say, I think the puzzle box was changed for the better. But also in a worse way, but we'll get to that. But the idea that they immediately show up, they're like, that knife was meant for you. So either you cut yourself... or you cut someone else, because we're going to fuck someone up.
Right.
And we
have a job to do.
And she's like, what the fuck is happening? So they're like, okay, someone else it is. So through her dream, they attack her brother and wake him up and draw him to her.
Oh, I see your point.
They lured him there
Yes.
through her subconscious. That is fucking brilliant. I adore that.
They were like, we're going to get somebody.
And you've just chosen who without even choosing.
Right.
That's who's on your mind. That's who's coming.
Guilty by association.
Yeah.
Choose your destructor.
Choose your destructor.
Do not seek the treasure.
Are you a god?
No.
So
Ray.
Matt gets stabbed by it, or stabs himself, I guess, in a manner. And now he's marked. And of course, they come. And it's honestly the moment in the movie that I realized, like, Pinhead is a lot more menacing in this one than the not looking menacing is sometimes more menacing. The blank expression on the priest or Pinhead, it's however you want to look at it, but the blank expression on her face the whole time, like, that is more menacing than the scowl or the stare.
Or looking scary. She's stoic.
Doug Bradley had a word on that. He was talking about his first time in the makeup was in the hospital in the first movie. He's got to do his big scary monologue. And he kept acting. He's an actor. He's a stage actor. So he has to emote and express. Mm-hmm. And Clive Barker's like, stop, do nothing. The makeup is your acting.
Right.
You have the voice, the makeup is your body, let it do the acting for you. So he just stands there and he moves not a muscle and he just talks and it comes out so much creepier.
Right.
And this chick did the same fucking thing. She has a little more expression with her body, but not her face. Her face remains passive and neutral.
Well, she always keeps her spine. she's regal. She's elegant. She's always standing straight up because no matter what's going on, she's in fucking control of the situation.
Clive Barker said that in the first movie, he directed Pinhead to be like Dracula. Like Bela Lugosi's Dracula. Or, stand up straight. You are better than people. And you know it. And you know what you're about to do to them. So I love that. He directed him to be like Dracula.
The one thing I will say,
takes a hook, licks it. Ah, shit, I'm stuck.
The one thing I will say about the Cenobites in this, and we were having this discussion earlier, Josh referred to the no bondage, no leather. There's no more leather in the
I know we all noticed
Hellraiser-verse.
But I enjoyed that. That was a good twist that I thought, because they still have the shape of straps or bindings, but it's just in the flesh.
Yes, their designs, hands down, these are the best fucking Cenobites ever. Like, I know people love Chatterer, and he's in this. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck gave a damn about Butterball? Butterball is the odd one out.
He was always
kind of stupid looking.
Yeah, but he was also the creepiest, because he was like, and he had his little glasses on. He's like,
He's better in the second one, for sure.
Yeah. I'm just upset they didn't have CD Man.
You don't want camera lens man?
He's like a Borg.
Funny that they're fighting Terry Farrell.
Right. Oh my God, yes.
But yeah, no, the Cenobites look outstanding. They do come across a little bit Silent Hilly, especially Asphyxia.
That one creeps me the fuck out.
And the wheezing was bad enough. That hospital scene might be my favorite scene in the movie. The wheezing is bad enough, but then the camera just keeps following it, and then you see the exposed spine and the lungs.
Yes. Well, and then that Cenobite has a surprise.
Yeah.
Because it's tied up.
Like a Silent Hill monster.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, it's slow. And even they fall for that.
Yep.
Didn't realize it was a fucking Crimson Head all along.
Yep. And once it came time, and once it was zoomed in on target, it broke free and was like a fucking lunatic.
I loved that.
It was Resident Evil 4. The guys with claws, what are they called?
Oh, Garradors.
Garradors, that's what it reminds me.
A lot like that.
And they kind of lumber, but then they come at you.
You shoot your gun.
You kick a pebble, they come at you.
My favorite design-wise, though, is actually the Weeper. The Weeper...
I didn't pay attention, I guess.
You're fine. The Weeper's the one who barely speaks until the very, very end. And she's the one who has, like, her... The skin under her eyes is split open. She has no skin on her bottom.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell was up with that one.
And her fucking arms split.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was hard to watch.
Yes.
But I couldn't look away.
And, well, you could hear the groans of pain.
Yeah.
But they were borderline orgasmic. It was, I mean, and I'm gonna come to that in a little bit.
I came to it too. Oh, never mind.
About the end.
But I mean, the look of the Cenobites, it's not. You can still see the originals in every conception in these.
Like Pinhead still has a leather robe. It's just skin now.
Yeah. And the other part too is even the other Cenobites, you could see where you could see that they were mirrored or taken from the original concepts from Hellraiser, which, even though this isn't the same story, this isn't even the puzzle box itself doesn't even have the same powers. Like, it's still really cool to see that they could take everything from the first movie and make it new again. Like, it's mind-boggling that they actually redid Hellraiser and did it tastefully. Like, that, honestly, that was the
surprisingly tastefully. Yeah.
That was honestly the hard part for me, was like, I see so many Hollywood remakes and I think, did we really need it? did we really need this? Is it really enough far pressed past what they did with the original?
This one was needed. There was...
And this one was, yeah.
Forrest had put it to me. There was no agenda in this movie. There was no narrative being pushed, social or otherwise.
There's a female Pinhead as an homage to the book.
Big deal.
And she doesn't even act like a woman. She doesn't act like a man. She acts gender neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're that fucked up, gender doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when you got a head full of pins.
Yeah.
And not short ones either, because when she pulls that one out, it comes out like a whole another 3 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in.
What I loved about that, too, do you remember the third one where he pulls out 2 pins?
Vaguely.
He pulls them out and there's worms attached to him.
Oh,
I was hoping to see a worm attached to this, but that's okay.
It was cool to see blood on him.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
So as she goes on, of course her brother gets taken. And as far as we know, they are taken... They're dead.
Mm-hmm.
They're taken and destroyed,
but they don't die quickly. Yeah, they don't die quickly.
The way it's described is they don't know the difference between pleasure and pain. It's all the same to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that her brother could be alive and dead at the same time is, a notion that comes to mind. It's the Schrodinger's cat scenario.
And I love that you never see what happens to him. Because, in the first movie, Frank gets pulled apart. In the beginning,
right.
He is pulled apart and Pinhead's picking up the pieces. In the book, it's implied that he's still alive. And he feels the burning of his nerves while he's in pieces all over the room.
Okay, well, because it's supernatural.
Exactly.
Well, that's why Pinhead pulls his... In the original, Pinhead puts his face back together and looks at him.
I love that.
And it's that notion that, why would he do this? And you realize, there's still something in his eyes enough to notion that this is still a thing. This is still a creature, even dismembered and pulled apart. This isn't just flesh and
it's not just a
blood.
Body, right?
Yeah.
It's just not pieces anymore. There's still a soul in there per se.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Mm-hmm. I love it though.
Yeah.
Even apart, he's still whole in a way.
Right.
So them not doing or showing as much of the ripping apart and stuff like that, them putting the hooks through the skin and binding them up is enough for me. And I kind of think that I appreciate that more because you don't have to... sometimes less is more.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first movie, it felt like they were really going for... Well,
gore.
I mean, Clive Barker does
They were
that.
going for the gore. Well, it's body horror.
Yeah. Look at Lord of Illusion. Even Lord of Illusion does that. It almost feels like that's a Clive Barker check mark.
A staple.
But did somebody get dismembered? Check. Was there lots of blood? Check. And I'm not saying that this is void of that, but it doesn't feel as drenched in it as...
It's not focusing on the body horror.
Right.
The body horror is the backdrop.
Well,
right.
They did a classic trope, and they worked up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have pacing issues with this movie. I thought it flowed perfectly because it starts with just enough action to whet your appetite. And then you have to deal with a little bit of first act bullshit. But it wasn't uninteresting to me because I know a lot of people who have suffered from addiction problems. I can connect with all of these characters, except the roommate. She has nothing to do. I get everybody's position. So I was invested in all their positions. I wanted to see what happened. I get... Only because I had that background, do I care? Most people evidently most people don't care. And of course, these guys might as well have fucking numbers for the order they're going to get slashed in. They're clearly just victims. They exist for no other reason
Hi,
than to
I'm
be
victim
victims.
number 4. Well, that's a funny name to have. Tell me about it.
Can you name any of their names outside of the brother and Riley?
Pinhead, Chatterer.
You motherfucker. I don't know. Chatterer's a victim. But we'll get to that.
I love that.
The only
I
reason
love that.
I could remember Riley, I could remember Riley, of course, but Roland, the only reason I kept remembering him was...
Because he hated Independence Day Part 2, and it was Roland Emmerich.
And,
So he was able to associate the two. That's why he never forgets.
It was Godzilla, not Independence Day 2.
Oh.
But it's still...
Oh, no, Roland Emmerich was Moonfall.
Oh, no, he was also Day After Tomorrow.
Sorry, I'm done.
He makes a lot of bad...
It's okay. So
And Geostorm. All right, I'm done.
but Roland was very memorable. Like, I mean, if you think about the whole movie, like him as the
Not
villain,
in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, oh, generic villain number 1,224.
right? But as the movie progresses, like I actually kind of had him pegged at the beginning. Not pegged, but like I kind of had an eye on him in the beginning because he didn't stick around long. Like he was here for a brief moment.
Noticeably short. It's like,
Yes.
wow, that actor must have got paid a lot for, 5 minutes on screen. I was even thinking, is he like a prolific actor in another country or some shit?
I don't remember him in anything.
He's been in ER. He's been in a bunch of other stuff too, but he was in ER.
Oh, I remember ER from the 90s, yeah.
No, he's been in Practical Magic, ER, Spartacus. He was in Elektra.
Oh, okay, I remember Spartacus.
Do you know who
Extant.
made ER or who wrote ER?
No.
Michael Crichton.
See,
Yeah.
I told you.
Ding.
You don't ever listen. Anyway, let's continue. So they go and speak to the lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course she gets cut struggling over
The box.
the box.
The
'cause
creepiest scene in the movie, in my opinion.
Yep, for sure. Excuse me. So of course, what I love is she accepts her fate. She's like, "No, I did it to myself." And
Yep.
she's not just talking about right now the cut. She's talking about everything she's done for Roland.
Mhm.
The grooming.
Yeah, she's just like, "No,
I deserve this.
this is I did this."
Can I say something and there's no good way of putting it, but it reminded me of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh yeah.
Like I had some creepy vibes.
I'm almost curious if that was purposefully
Intentional?
Yeah.
Like I had some creepy moments of that, and I was just like, ugh. But yeah, because she's just basically, she's the shepherd for the slaughter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
We obviously know she knew what was going on because she knew about the box and
Yeah.
everything about it. So she knew what was going on. I don't know. Some people, man, their moral compass is
but that's
skewed or broken or.
so. Serena was her name,
Yes.
and Trevor. Do they really know about the box? They know something weird's happening. Do they know exactly what is happening?
Serena has to know because she helped put Roland's affair in order. She has to know that what happened to Roland.
Right.
And she was in the room when it happened anyway. So, I mean, she might have left, but, we see her in the room.
No,
That's the last we see her.
Because, and once again, spoiler alert, I know if you've watching this or listened to it, you've seen it. But he's got a giant fucking thing out of his chest.
One of the few things I don't like design-wise of this movie. I think it looks retarded.
So they had to have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
They had to have known something fucking weird went on, and the box was the cause.
And Trevor's seen it because he doesn't react to it later.
Mhm.
He just accepts it.
Yeah, well, he talks to him like he's just been hired to wash
Yeah.
the taxi cab or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, wake up. You didn't wash the car good enough. And he's like, oh, man, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's this fucking contraption sticking out of his fucking chest.
I just think it could have been designed better because
I feel you.
as it is, it looks top-heavy and cumbersome, but not in a torturous way, in a not visually appealing way.
No, I get it, but I think that was part of it, too.
I think that's why it works so well. Is because it's one of those things that you're like, you don't like that, and even to the extent that you don't like it, you might think, oh man, like I wouldn't want that in me.
Mhm.
Like I don't even think it looks visually appealing. And I think that actually works to its credit, is because
I think it works well for sure.
yeah,
Like Pyramid Head. Nobody wants to have a giant fucking 4-foot-long pyramid on your head.
right.
It works. I'm just saying.
It works. It just works.
I just feel like it could have been, he could have had a screw in his chest that's serrated or something, and it would have had the same effect. Just personally. But
I get you.
that's the only design choice. Okay, there's two design choices. The fact that all of the pins in all the Cenobites have pearls at the end of them, I don't like that. In the
I
book,
didn't notice, I guess.
yeah, in the book they're described as jeweled pins, and I get they were going for that, but they're pearls. It doesn't look right. And it doesn't, I don't know. I don't like it. I figure like rubies would have been better or something if you had to have a jeweled pin.
Okay. Fair enough.
Attention to detail.
As a guy who draws monsters, I notice these things.
You are the brute squad.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Fuck you, I just got $250 for drawing a logo that big.
Congratulations.
So
Congratulations on that, by the way.
after the loss of her brother, she's trying to figure out a way to bring him back, and she knows that the box is the only way to bring him back. So she's on a hunt. She's on a quest to try to figure out what to do next. And she ends up finding out about Roland. And, of course, they go to Roland's estate. They start rifling.
Which is different from when you see it in the beginning of the movie. It's got the cage around it.
Yeah.
It's got the
So you never actually see the outside of it in the beginning because it has the cage on the inside.
No, I know, but I mean, the very beginning of the movie, don't you? I guess you don't, do you?
Well, you
They're
do see
clever about
pictures.
that.
You do see pictures of it, and it shows
Maybe
that
that's
big,
what it was.
the big sprawling estate, and it looks really nice. And then when she pulls up to it, you're like,
because
holy
they
shit.
didn't do an establishing shot. You're absolutely correct.
Exactly. I noticed that too when they did it. I'm like, oh, because when I saw the cage, I'm like, that wasn't there in the beginning. They didn't show it in the beginning.
No, they didn't.
That's clever.
Of course, we're missing all the little side stuff, like her going to Trevor to try to convince Trevor to come to.
Yeah, and those scenes are not filler, but they're just there to be like, oh, well, Trevor doesn't like the box. Like, we haven't seen that 400 fucking times.
Yeah, he tries talking her out of going.
As he does.
Yeah. As one does.
Which I appreciate the hell out of this, because him caring about her makes what happens to him so much more, not satisfying, gut-wrenching. Because he tries the entire movie to redeem himself, and she still doesn't forgive him. And it works. Because of this movie, because of the context of everything, it works why she does not fucking forgive him.
Oh, no. He's already sold himself out. Like, that's why I'm okay with the way they sealed his fate. Mm-hmm. Because she does it. The boyfriend, her brother's boyfriend, is completely innocent. He has done nothing wrong to anybody. He is the most innocent, wholesome character in this whole entire scenario, next to the roommate. And he's done nothing but try to sacrifice himself and, try to help her out in every way possible, all because he loves Matt, the brother, and he loves Riley. And he knows that, the only way for this to end is to help Riley. Even if he doesn't believe her, it's to help Riley, and that's all he cares about is helping Riley at this point, because Matt's gone.
And I like to think that he's really only helping her because that's what Matt would want.
Right.
I like to think that's half of his motivation.
Oh, and
partially, and he's just a really good dude.
Yeah, he's just a
pretty cool guy.
He's a good he's a good human being.
Like, he's a dick at points, but he's justified in being a dick at those
right.
points.
Well, he gets mad because he was like, I told you to stay. After everything happens and everything starts going downhill, he's like, I told you not to leave.
Right.
But then he moves on. He's like, he says his piece, he makes it short to the point, and then he moves on, and then he's done.
Yes.
But I would probably feel the same way. I mean, Matt, ends up in the scenario that he ends up in, and, he's never seen again. So, of course, he's going to be upset by that. And that leads us into the fact that she goes to this house by herself. And eventually, Trevor and he show up together because he realizes, like,
the roommate too.
Oh, and the roommate as well, yeah. They all need to be there for Riley. It's not just about one. It's all of them need to be there. And Trevor was the only one to know where to go.
Even though, ironically, the only reason they're actually really out there is so they can die.
In theory, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
In
the higher metaverse plane of existence where we live.
So
viewing down on them.
We're at the perfect point where I think I can reveal the true genius of this movie. And the only downfall it really has. This is a slasher movie, unlike almost all the other Hellraisers. Like, 3 is definitively a slasher, but this is the only one that is full-on, Jason Voorhees slasher movie. But it's a slasher movie in which the main character has to pick the victims.
Right.
That's the genius of this movie.
Right.
And that's a cool plot. The genius is she's a loose cannon with addiction problems.
Gotcha.
So you have put the sacrificial tool in the hands of a fucking loose cannon with addiction problems and said, you get to choose who dies. That is fucking brilliant. I've never seen that before.
But she doesn't.
No, and that is a flaw. Think of it this way. Okay, so earlier in the movie, she goes to the hospital and sees a lawyer, and she is pissed that the lawyer is kind of withholding information, not telling her anything. She's desperate to find her brother, but she's also kind of a bitch. So she's spiteful, and maybe the girl says, the lawyer says, your brother's better off dead. She gets spiteful and she cuts her. She's pissed. She's suffering from withdrawal. She's been up for days. And now this bitch, the only lead she has is giving her nothing. So, you make her an asshole for a minute. You have her cut her on purpose. Later on, down the road, you have her addiction play the biggest part that it does. You have her really be tempted. I don't even know how you would do it. I honestly have no way to solve this one. But you have her addiction become the problem, the central focus for a 10-minute scene where she has to pick between her addiction or saving someone's life. She picks her addiction. She sacrifices someone else. I don't know who. Could be the roommate because she's fucking useless in this movie.
I get you.
And then at that point, after she's had that high or whatever it is, now she realizes, oh my God, I am the fucking worst person ever. So now she feels she has to atone for it. And the rest of the movie she spends not only trying to solve the box and get her brother back, but she has to atone for being an addict. She has to take responsibility for herself and for the box and for everything she's done. She realizes she's been the bad guy. So the very next person she stabs is Chatterer. That would have made Chatterer's death, which is already the coolest fucking part of the movie, that would have made it so much better in my opinion. If she had been a horrible person leading up to this point, now she has to fight to get herself back.
Okay, so you think it's a missed opportunity?
I think it's a huge missed opportunity because otherwise her addiction means nothing in this movie. It does not play a part.
I don't agree with that. And the reason I don't agree with that is because we are automatically to believe that she is a bad person in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we know that she's done some stuff. It doesn't say what, but her brother doesn't trust her.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets very angry with her. And to the point that you realize, like, she's already had enough downs in her life. She's getting ready to get evicted from her brother's house. She's already at her lowest point. Like, she has no place to go. She has nothing left. And the one person that reaches back out to help her, she just watched it be taken from her.
Mm-hmm.
But then to put on top of it, like, she being a bad person in the end of all of that, takes more away from her. Like, I mean, there has to be an arc, like, in a character like her. Riley isn't a morally bad person. She just makes bad choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the end, like, even whenever she makes the final sacrifice at the end, she does pick. She does pick two things. She picks the Cenobite, and she picks the final take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those two things that she does pick speaks more about the character of who she really is. She just wants to protect the people she loves. That's all it was really about. And this poor girl who just happened to have an addiction problem was preyed upon.
But that's my problem, is that she just happens to have it. If you didn't make her an addict and just made her an asshole, it would change zero about this movie.
But it wouldn't. But, well, it would. It would change a lot about the movie because, like, you can get behind Riley. You can get sentimental behind Riley because she's trying to protect people she loves.
Yeah, what's that have to do with addiction?
No, well, it may have a lot to do with addiction because you don't want to see anyone struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if I have an addiction with food, you know, I'm heavy set, like, you know, in the end, I could die of a heart attack or have, you know, other gestational, you know, diabetes. Yeah. There's other things.
But you wouldn't kill a person over a cheeseburger like a meth head would kill someone over a meth pipe.
No, I wouldn't. But it's still one of those things.
I don't know. I really like cheeseburgers.
If I was an asshole and I had a heart attack on top of that,
mm-hmm.
would you feel pity for me? Or would you be like, oh, shit? You know, like,
I feel
who cares? You know?
I don't know. I just feel like she doesn't... I feel that the movie should not have started with her darkest point. It should have been moved 20 minutes back into the movie.
Come in after a high where she's floating.
Mm-hmm.
Everything seems like it's sunshine and rainbows.
Maybe even have her be slightly seduced by the power of the box. Have it feed her somehow. It's like, yeah, no, people are dying around you, but you're getting what you want out of it.
Right.
So she begins to focus, oh, well, at least I can get my brother back. That becomes her obsession. Her addiction is no longer to pills necessarily, but it's to getting her brother back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe after, in my hypothetical scenario, after she is stabbed this last person, then Pinhead's like, okay, well, here's to prove that we're on the same page. Here's your brother. And then the scene happens where she feels his back and realizes he's not actually like that.
Mm-hmm.
He is fucking skinless, which was brilliantly done, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel Riley is a strong character, but we're not given anything about her. We don't know why she's into drugs. We don't know, what is it, trauma that caused that way? Is it peer pressure? We know nothing about her other than she wants her brother back. So if you're going to have to go that route, because this is a 2-hour movie, you can't explore a person's backstory too much. You need to give her a reason to... I just feel she's not strong enough. That's it. Like, she's acted well, and she's written competently, but she doesn't struggle. She only struggles against people telling her, no, you can't do that. She has no internal struggle.
Right. But that's just limitations by the script.
It is. Well, that's my point. I feel this could make the script stronger.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And again, I know nothing. I don't remember the gay boyfriend's name. I remember the...
Colin was his name.
Okay. Do you know his last name?
No.
Exactly.
I don't remember Riley's last name either.
I don't remember half the character's name.
That's the problem.
There was a Pinhead and Chatterer.
We know nothing about them is my point. That's one of the 3 problems with this movie, I feel.
I don't think that the names, as far as each character is concerned, matter.
No, it was an example,
great
though.
deal. But Riley, I actually was really shocked at how well Riley wrote.
Yeah.
And I was actually even more shocked at how well the actress, Odessa, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Azion.
I've heard it Azion, yeah.
She showed emotions, and there is a lot more to just addiction than just, I need my next high, of course. And I like the way that she did kind of pop a pill here. And then after that, it felt like she spent the rest of the movie coming down out of it. And after that, it felt more like she was struggling with, like, am I fucking crazy? And that's what it really kept me going with it is like, that would be enough to scare me out of fucking doing another drug.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I that fucked up that, like, that this shit is real? Like, is this
some
really
box with
real?
a knife in it is causing people to die?
Yeah. Is this shit really going on? And that would be enough. And I don't know what it would be like to have an addiction. I don't know what it would be like to have those struggles.
Mm-hmm.
Some people might look at it and go, this is making me want to do more. And other people would look at it like, I would never touch another thing again if this is what this is entailing me.
I get you.
And, I like the choices that she makes because it's literally her always trying to redeem what happened to Matt. She knows that picking these people will not bring back Matt, but at the same time...
Well, she doesn't know that. She's trying to bring back Matt. That's the whole purpose.
Right, but Pinhead has told her that this is how you get your wish.
It was the lawyer that told her. Until she went to the lawyer, she had no fucking clue that was even an option.
Yeah.
She was just trying to figure out what's going on. Where's my brother at?
Right.
Yeah, I think ultimately I just wanted the movie to be darker than it is. And it's still a very dark movie.
I get it, but you wanted even more.
I wanted the themes to parallel. She and Roland Voight have nothing in common as it is, but they were supposed to. He is addicted to pleasure. She is addicted to drugs. They were supposed to parallel each other, and as it stands, they don't. He is supposed to reflect what she is supposed to be if she picks to get her brother back. But he doesn't. As it stands, he's just a bad guy and she's just a good guy and they have nothing in common.
Right.
But they were supposed to. That's the thing. Addiction is the theme of the movie, but they don't quite draw the parallel there.
Okay.
Do you see my point?
No, I do, and I'm not arguing against
And
it.
I'm not saying my suggestion's the very best way to go. I'm just saying that's how I would have done it.
Right, it's something you would have liked to have seen.
Yeah.
Roland definitely, there's no redemption for him at all. Like, even after the first scene that you see of him.
Oh, hell no. He's far gone.
All
That's
the
the
way.
point. He's the worst case scenario of her. That's what it's supposed to be.
And I like the fact that she did not choose anyone's death except for Trevor's.
But as a consequence, how many people accidentally cut themselves on the damn thing?
Oh, yeah, her brother included.
Well, we have to have people die, so they'll just accidentally cut themselves. That got old pretty quickly. After the lawyer did it, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, but when it comes to her brother, I mean...
The brother was perfect. That's how that had
right,
to be.
Right.
Yeah.
But the lawyer was... That just how she got cut disappoints me. Everything after that is perfect.
I want to take a step back and just say that Chatterer's death was my absolute...
So good.
I don't know. I'm going to say it's my second favorite death in the movie.
Okay.
And I love it, especially for the fact of they're telling her... So we skipped over a part. She's getting ready to throw the box away. And then Pinhead comes to her and says, don't do it. You're missing a tremendous opportunity here. And then while she's distracted, they activate the box and make it cut her. And then instead of taking her, they give her the fucking ultimatum. We now have your blood. We can take you whenever we want. Choose 2 more.
And I love that now they have free reign. They can take her. But I love that Pinhead gives her the choice, because that implies that Pinhead's like sympathetic towards her. She's like, I know what pain is.
Right.
What you're going through is the worst kind of suffering. We can make it better.
Right, and I wonder if that's if that's part of the theme of Hellraiser has always been in general, that the suffering, the emotional suffering that a person has just living, it could be even more than the suffering they inflict on people. Like, that suffering is of the flesh, and it's temporary. They can only do so much damage to your body, per se, before they die, before they kill you.
Yeah.
Before you break, yeah.
You know, but you have to live, let's say you live 80, 90 years. You have to live with that. Living, a lot of philosophers have always said, the act of living is to suffer.
Of liver and onions.
Right. That's it. That's what it is. And then we have bouts of reprieve. Movies, games, sex, drugs. We have ways to dull the suffering of just fucking existence. So then these creatures from a whole nother fucking plane are like, hey, we got something else for you.
Yeah.
But, and that's what bothers me a little bit about the idea of the sacrifices. Because then they're just torn asunder, and they got a little bit of pleasure out of it. So there has to be another purpose for that. And I think that maybe if they do a sequel, maybe they'll explore that. I hope.
I like that they left it open, because I agree with you. I don't see it as a flaw, because it's an easy thing to rectify, but I do see it as, if they don't explain it, then it will be a flaw.
Right.
Because I agree with that. There has to be more to that.
So she's got her hand cut. She has to choose somebody. And then the Cenobites move in. They,
Dude, sorry, real quick. Chatterer coming out of the road and just... It's like in Mortal Kombat when Sub-Zero walks down the stairs and Liu Kang's like, here we go.
Right.
He just walks up the stairs and fucking looks at her, and it's like, game on, bitch. And then he Michael Myers her ass.
And I love how strong he is.
I love it. I like how they made him big in this one. Before he was kind of tall and lanky, but now he's not jacked, but he's tough.
Very athletic.
They're like, don't worry, we got this. They close this heavy iron gate, and he's like,
nope.
Pop, and just pushes them, fucking corners them against the wall. And he takes a chunk out of the dude.
Yeah, big old bite right out of his arm.
Right out of the fucking vein here.
What? The guy with only teeth bit somebody? I didn't see that coming.
But he's never done it before.
Right? Okay.
And of course they'll never say it now because he's dead. I hope that it's the same Chatterer from the other movies, because if you remember in Hellbound, once all the other Cenobites die, it's revealed that he was a kid.
Right, that he was a child.
He was a child when he solved it. That is the darkest thing in the world.
Chatterer was?
Yes. Yeah, because they all get their original forms revealed. And yeah, Chatterer turned into like a 8-year-old kid.
Yeah, in a very oversized coat.
Yep, so he's been suffering for a long time. So, and I'll come to that later too. So she's in a pinch, and of course, now she's in good guy mode. She's not going to voluntarily pick anyone to die.
Exactly. This is the point where no matter how the script
Right,
goes,
right.
she has to be
Actually,
good now.
we jumped ahead because we skipped my favorite death, and that's the roommate.
Hers is your favorite?
She gets stabbed.
It's not even her death; it's the way in which they take her. Once they
From the
come,
van?
once they come for you, nowhere is safe. Now Roland has a cage, and he had done the research and realized that he could build a cage and protect himself or capture them. But the average person, if they ran across this, she is in the back of a van with everyone
High
in it,
speed, fucking terrassing.
and they still take her. The back of the van turns into a tunnel. I was like, I knew right then at that moment that this was going to be my favorite part.
And I have to say, this is my favorite thing above everything. Oh, okay, the plot with a loose cannon in the box. But the fact that they take their time. This movie is 2 hours long, and they use every second.
Yep.
They do not rush anything. So this scene with the van being pulled back is like 20 seconds, and you're like, oh my God, how far is this going to go?
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps going.
Just keeps on going.
But it's perfect.
I like the fact that the van kept going and the scene stopped and you were in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Or the whatever it is. It's a castle looking
the labyrinth.
block. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The home of the Leviathan.
Yeah, it's a labyrinth. He shines black light. I always find that funny. But I also like how it's kind of implied to just be in her head, but at the same time it's not. It's kind of Freddy Krueger that way. You know? Like, they're taking her soul, but her body's still there. Because they see her in the back of the van. She doesn't just disappear.
Well,
Until-
Ryler sees her in the mirror, but it's down a tunnel. They're not just in the middle of the van.
That's right. I'm incorrect.
She can see the tunnel. I mean, and I'll get nerdy, but it's just time space. It's just relative. It's like a portal. You can make the two portals in two different places. You've made the portal on the back of the van. The van is moving, but the place that the portal goes to is not. So, I mean, it's
that's cool. Though.
Yeah, space is relative. It depends on the observer where they're at in the universe. Whatever is happening around them is relativity. It's observed.
Yeah.
I know I could explain it more, but I don't want to spend.
I think we get the gist. Anyway.
I don't want to spend 2 hours doing.
You take the attractive piece of paper and you put a pencil through it.
Right, the trope done in every movie.
So Chatterer was played by Nicholas Vince in the first two Hellraiser movies, and in this one it's played by Jason Lyles, and he's a lot younger. He's born in '87, so yeah, it's not.
He was born the year the first one came out.
So I'm gonna jump back. So they're pinched behind the gate. Chatterer's biting motherfuckers. What's his name has his leg pinched, his knee, and then in I don't know why I didn't see it. I should have seen it.
It should be obvious.
It should have been obvious,
but it's not.
But she stabs fucking Chatterer, and I fucking love it because he goes and then he just stops.
And steps back.
He steps back and he's like, "Oh, well, it's my time."
And I love how without moving a single muscle on her face, you see Pinhead go.
Right? Yeah.
She's like, "You well played."
Right.
All she can do
got
is
me. You fucking got me.
And I like to think Chatterer was her favorite. Certainly everybody else's.
I mean, who knows? But
he was done so much justice too.
Just with her being so stoic, she was able to show displeasure and pleasure all at the same time. Just like we were saying, like, I can't believe you did that, and also
I respect the fuck out of you.
Nicely done. and Chatterer, no complaints. He just stepped back and accepted his fate.
I have to wonder though, is that the end of him?
Right, we don't know. And we don't know the rules of this universe.
And they never mention it. I love it.
It's a whole new universe. So they get back in and with her brother-in-law, future possible brother, not anymore. And then of course they're having the tussle, and then she closes the cage, and then the Cenobites are like, "Oh man, the door's closed. What do we do now?"
Boy, you know what?
Which there is electricity ran through that, which I didn't realize it the first time they closed it, But when they did, or when she's messing with it and monkeying with it, you don't really realize that there's electricity flowing through it.
That's true.
But it wasn't until she closed it on the Cenobites that you realized that it had a current to it.
There was sparks came off it.
Yeah. When it closed that last time, it was pretty cool. But yeah,
Oh, so you mean the cage is electrified?
yeah, there's something.
I
that
never actually got that.
Yeah, like when she closes it that last time, right before they open it and let him in, like it does something. It sparks or does something to make you think.
Pinhead and another one were walking right up to the door, and then the whole cage around the house closes, and then a couple sparks shoot off of it.
I must have missed that.
Just
I probably blinked.
it's fine. They were tiny sparks. It wasn't like in a movie where there's 10,000.
The camera didn't just move to focus on it.
Right, there wasn't a billion volts.
It wasn't like the Clive Barker, let's put animation over this box.
Yeah. So that is one problem I actually have with the movie, or not with the movie, but with that setup in particular. All they needed was the throwaway line. Just give me some reason Pinhead can't come in there. Personally, I would have had it covered in archaic runes. That's the most Clive Barker thing. Or even have it covered in the runes that are on the box.
Which
Something.
that's what I would have done.
Exactly. Just something. Because he even says, he's like, your chains can't get me now. Yeah, they can. There's holes in your grating there. There's no supernatural thing keeping those chains from getting through those holes.
Right, but there's obviously something.
There is. I just wanted a throwaway line to say what.
Right.
One line of dialogue. I've covered it in runes. Okay, I buy it.
In writing terms, that's hang a lantern on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would argue it's almost Deus Ex Machina because...
Yes, it's more that than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because hang a lantern on it would be when the character escapes so easy, and then he makes a comment and he goes, boy, that was easy. And then there's no explanation.
And it's just to point out, wow, that was a stupid scenario we didn't have an explanation for.
We wrote ourselves in a corner. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love it. The house is a Deus Ex Machina, but the box is a MacGuffin. And it works!
So, does that make the center room the goober?
Sure. Mark, what are we doing? Where are we at?
We've got to the point where it is basically the last encounter of the movie is where we're at.
And it's only 3/4 of the way done. There was 30 minutes of this fucking movie left.
And really, what it stems into is this is when all the cards come out on the table. He has finally revealed himself, of course, to everybody as...
Roland is, yeah.
Roland has this giant apparatus that is pierced through his chest and back cavity. And you can't even describe it. It's got...
Oh, yeah, I can. It rolls his nerves.
Yeah, but even that doesn't quite do it justice.
No, because it's
taken the place of his lungs and his
It's
heart.
like an abacus.
I wasn't thinking abacus. I'm thinking a loom. It's like a loom.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's a loom that...
It's a nerve loom.
Yeah.
Yeah. It,
And even if I would have done it slightly differently, it looks fucking painful.
Why didn't he just get some liquid capsaicin and just pour it on his nerves?
Because then it would be spicy nerves.
They do that from what I read, that's for like knee and hip replacements. They will actually put capsaicin on the exposed nerve when they close up so that way they don't have to dope them up.
So that way you suffer more.
No, it deadens the nerve.
I'm just
it overloads it. The nerve is like, capsaicin. I don't, that's how nerves talk.
That's how my nerves talk.
right. So
Pinch poke, yo me coke.
we're at the final encounter, and you start to realize that Roland has been paying Trevor.
Trevor Belmont, yeah.
And
Trevor Belmont.
Riley feels completely betrayed because, well,
obviously, yeah.
if it wasn't for Trevor giving her access to the safe to get into the house to steal the box, none of this would have ever happened. She wouldn't have lost her brother. She wouldn't have lost anybody.
So it is entirely his fault.
That is a terrible feeling to realize that you've been played.
Yeah.
And everything that has transpired is because of your falsehood.
Especially when that much shit goes down because of it. Like, it's not like one shitty event. It's just over and over for a week. Everything is going wrong, all because of this one guy.
Do you remember the movie Matchstick Men?
Never heard of it.
It had Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell. and
they were robbers.
They were con men.
Yeah.
They would con people out of money. Well, Nicolas Cage finds out he has a daughter, and during the whole movie, he's trying to connect with her, and then...
Is her name Arizona, and is he raising her?
No. And a spoiler for this movie, if you haven't seen it, it doesn't matter, but turns out that Sam and the girl are conning him. So it's like a double con. And then, at the end of it, after they form a relationship, and then they both disappear, and he realizes he was conned, he runs into her later on, and Sam took the money from her, too. So he used her, didn't even split it.
It's a
so
triple con.
He was the ultimate con man. Very good movie, very good movie.
And he ends up as the basic bitch in Galaxy Quest.
So the point I was making
never give up, never surrender.
Never surrender.
is I've
Love Magic,
money.
Man.
You know, money was what was lost, and some emotions were torn up. But in this situation, her brother is dead. The roommate is dead.
Her boyfriend's a fucking dickhead.
Chatterer's dead.
And now she's cursed, and she's going to die if she doesn't pick someone else.
Now they've got to make sequels just to get Chatterer back.
I just realized I don't like this movie because Chatterer dies.
He goes out like a fucking badass, though.
0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Don't watch this movie. Chatterer dies. Anyway, so yeah, we have the big final confrontation.
And I like that it's not a fist fight, because so many times it devolves into a fist fight. No,
Right.
No, it's grander than that. It's more restrained and regal.
I love because sorry.
No, you're good.
He's got the cage trapped around him, and he's like, "I didn't build a fortress. I built a cage. Haha, I've tricked you."
And it was clever. I didn't catch that.
No, and that was great. I thought. And then he's like, "I want this thing removed. I want it out of me." And then I love what Pinhead says. She's like, "A gift can't be returned,
but it can be exchanged."
Right, it can be exchanged. She's like, "You can't go back. You can continue on the path, but the door behind, I can't remember her exact words."
Yeah.
But basically it's like, well, we can do something greater for you if you're not happy with what you got.
And this whole scene is brilliant because it starts off with him in power, and then the door opens, and she just starts walking, and by the end of it, he's a quivering mass on his knees,
yes,
just please take it out of me.
Just take it.
6 years of this torture. I can't blame him. It's so well acted. But fucking, he's on his knees quivering, and that's when she's like, well, it can't be, or you can't return it. But it can be. And I like how she has to process it. She's like, well, we could do something for you still.
Well, I love how she doesn't just immediately like, no, you whiny bitch, you're stuck with it. No, she's like, she's the customer representative, and she's like, you're not happy with.
She is Leviathan's customer rep.
We did skip over one big part though. What makes them open the cage, and it's the fact that they decided that their last person that they were going to use to get the configuration that they want is another Cenobite.
Yeah. And of course, the big Silent Hill moment happens when they get... Before all that even, she goes out there and she's like, I'm going to lure one in here. And then Weeper's fucking arms split open. Mm-hmm. Pinhead gets some shit to say. The other one from the first movie, who's been drastically redesigned, she's fucking cool.
Yep. And they could have took her any moment.
They could have.
I mean, when she walked out, she was at any moment she was opening herself up to attack. Instead, I don't know. I just love them because they're like the best team ever because they are goal oriented. Mm-hmm. They're like, no, we're not here to punish people. Like,
yeah, what you view as punishment, it's a reward.
Right. Everything that we offer is a treat.
Why can't you see that?
Yeah, they're like, why wouldn't you want this? And then my arm split open down the middle. I mean, oh God.
But I love it.
That part, when I see extreme pain that I can't handle, I go, and I shake my legs. And I was going, oh God, no, fuck that. Because I got a splinter the other day, and I about cried.
I got a splinter, and I think that's my Cenobite name now.
I couldn't handle it. I couldn't sleep. It hurt. It was sore.
If you were a Cenobite, that's you're just a normal Josh, but you have a fucking splinter.
And I'm like, this fucking splinter will not come out. I got like tweezers and a razor blade, and I'm like, damn, it's fucking deep.
I will say that once, the one thing too...
We should film a video with that.
Yeah, dude.
It felt like even in the original Hellraiser, it was not their job to take the innocent in a way. There was still that moment like... even when they were coming after Frank, they wanted Frank. They had that narrative to where we could take her too, but we want Frank.
And I love that whole exchange because it shows that they don't think as one. Kirsty's like, Frank is still alive. I'll take you to him. And the girl Cenobite's like, no, you open the box. And Pinhead's like, no, I want to hear this.
Right. He's like, I don't know if you can tell, but I really want Frank back. And
I fucking love that. But then she's like, I'll take you to him. He's like, maybe. But if you're lying, we'll tear your soul apart. So then the climax of that movie happens, and Frank is torn apart. And then they fucking turn on her because he said maybe.
Right.
So I read a comment on YouTube about someone saying, well, Hellraiser's always been about consent. You have to take the box and open it yourself, and you know what you're getting into, and you have to consent to them taking you. Motherfucker, did you watch the movie? No. They turn on her anyway. They're fucking evil. But I like that in this one they don't. They live up to their word.
There's a code.
Because in their minds, they are doing the greater good.
Right.
Yeah, you might not understand what they're going for, but it's in their eyes, it's to benefit you.
You sought this out.
And my favorite thing about this scene is that Pinhead's heartbroken. She's like, you don't like the gift we gave you?
Right. Yeah, she's actually
she's
kind of
genuinely
upset. Yeah,
she even says it. I remember exactly what she says, but she's like, "Oh, I guess we pegged you wrong." And then without even moving her face, Jamie Clayton does so well.
Mm-hmm.
Without moving her face, she's like, "We did have you pegged wrong. Everything you did wasn't for pleasure, it was for power, for dominance."
Right.
All right, well, I know the perfect gift for you.
Yep.
So good.
Well,
we still got a little bit more to talk about.
No, I know, but
okay.
The other part too is the wrap up. They took Nora, which was the roommate, and of course the only people that were left was Trevor and the roommate, or the brother's boyfriend. And so of course Roland basically tries to sacrifice the brother's boyfriend.
Right, yeah, he takes it and stabs him with it.
He stabs him.
And I love how Trevor's even like, why didn't you stab the Cenobite? He was right there.
Right.
And Roland's like, I have had this fucking thing in me for 6 years. Every second is a year to me.
I get it, but that just shows how... I know people are selfish somewhat in survival and in the movies or whatever, but Roland is the absolute most selfish fucking asshole.
He couldn't be bothered to take 3 extra steps to stab a Cenobite. No, take the dude who's right there.
I mean, he could even use that as like, this is my severance pay. Stab him or something,
It wasn't even that he stabbed him. He stabbed him and it drug it up his chest.
Yeah, he was trying to kill him quickly so that he wouldn't be able to survive.
And it didn't take him, though. And that was the part that, like, before it had a chance to take him, that is when Riley made her choice. Riley made her last choice by sacrificing Trevor.
And I love that the Cenobite was willing to hear her out. Because ultimately it's her choice to make.
Yeah.
So she said sacrifice another. Didn't mean, that can't... A sacrifice can be exchanged.
As long as the sacrifice is made.
Right. Yes. I love that. There is one plot hole, and this is not an inescapable plot hole, unfortunately, and that's that 2 wishes are made on the same...
Right. I was going to bring that up, too.
Shenron doesn't grant 2 wishes.
But that's the thing, though. His wasn't a wish. He traded. That was the thing. At first, I thought that, and I've watched it twice.
I see what you're saying. So... It's kind of a technicality. Pinhead just happened to be there, and he wanted to bargain.
Yes. He bargained. He traded what he had, which left him whole again, which you would have thought would have been his resurrection. But they did not resurrect him.
And then this fucking ship anchor, boom, right through the hole that just healed.
Yeah.
Dude.
You thought he was getting a resurrection, and he was not. And since she took nothing, even if you consider his... quote-unquote wish or his granting, with her taking nothing, there was only one prize, which honestly in the end she got the best prize. The fact that she still got to keep everything. Well, keep what was left of.
Yeah.
Right,
Everything.
right. Yeah, because, well, the only way to get her to, well, let's just say she chose to get her brother back. Who knows how it would have been twisted.
I remember saying in a text earlier.
Yeah, would it even be him?
My thought was that Pinhead, because Pinhead cares, my thought would be, well, you clearly love your brother enough to kill 7 people to get him back, so you never want to be without him. So now he's a figment of her imagination that she can see and touch, but nobody else can, and he never leaves. He's always there. Because in Pinhead's mind, that's justified. That's what you wanted.
Right, right.
And I like that Pinhead, at least this specific version, really believes that. I feel like Doug Bradley did a lot of shit because he was fucking evil.
She is extremely devout.
Yes.
Whatever it is Pinhead is selling, she is all for it. Mm-hmm. And like you said, they absolutely believe they're making the right decisions. Now, and I wanted to, because I talked about this in the text too. So Pinhead is absolutely just devastated that she chose nothing.
Yeah, I love that. At first, again, just like with Roland, she's heartbroken. She's like, what do you mean you choose nothing? We did all this for...
This is for you.
And then Pinhead slowly, again, without showing up, she doesn't blink. She doesn't fucking wince. Nothing. She's like, but technically you picked the greatest suffering of all.
Right.
Now you get to live with the fact that everybody died and you get nothing for
because
it.
of you.
All right, we got a deal. You pick lament, bitch.
This is your fault.
And that's the greatest suffering.
But that's also the box's normal state, lament.
Yeah, and I like how they did that.
Yeah, so it's always in the lament configuration until you change it. So once again, that goes back to the status quo of suffering. To live is to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a motorcycle or? I thought it was one of my cats growling. I was like, what the? It was very distracting. It was extremely loud to my ears, anyway.
So,
like a splinter.
In the end,
This won't come out.
Roland gets cast into what would you call that?
The white void.
He's absorbed into Leviathan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and turns into. It's not a god, is it?
So here's the thing.
Go ahead, because I've already watched a bunch of videos on this too.
The director apparently has said what happened. I have not seen any of those videos.
Okay.
But to me, the best case scenario, there's 2 theories I've heard. One, he's being turned into a Cenobite. That is my favorite theory because it just feels the most right to me.
Right, it fits.
Because that implies that every other Cenobite also picked power.
Right.
You know fucking Pinhead picked power.
Yes.
That bitch radiates power.
Yeah, she dominates a room.
But the other thing that I've heard is that he may literally be a beacon of Leviathan. He may be the spokesperson for Leviathan now.
Okay.
He might be the only thing above Pinhead.
Right.
He would be literally Leviathan's voice.
Right. He'd be like the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah, Metatron, the voice of God.
Right.
Who's Alan Rickman. And
I was going to say.
Very bored.
That's what I was going to say.
I am the Metatron.
Every instance
Herald
of
of the
angels
Almighty.
of gold talking to people was me, Metatron.
Voice of the
I'm a
ones who-
seraphim, the highest choir of angels.
I love Alan Rickman.
I can't do Alan Rickman. I miss him.
Me too.
I do think that it definitely opens up a new chapter or possibility of a series, or not. When I say series, I mean a new stretch of movies.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd also made the comments today, like, I really think just from Roland's end and even Riley's end, they could have made 2 good seasons of this. Of a Hellraiser series.
Of a
with
series.
this.
I agree with that. Yeah, I misunderstood what you meant earlier. I thought you meant like back in the 80s they could have done Hellraiser series. Probably not.
No.
Freddy's Nightmares was terrible, and Friday the 13th had nothing to do with Jason. So.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No,
I
I
remember
mean,
that, yeah.
if this would have been, which they do this to everything now, everything gets a series now instead of a movie. But if this would have been stretched into, say 6-8 episodes for each one of the characters' arcs or each one of the character stories, like I think that this actually would have been enough to captivate me.
I agree with that.
There is a lot of information condensed into, a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, there is enough going on with each of these characters that it would have been enough to captivate even a 30, 45-minute episode each. So, I mean...
And then you could have fixed a couple of my problems. You could have expanded on the characters.
Right.
Given them last names.
They would have shown that Trevor was the betrayer earlier.
Yeah.
Because then you would have the tension of the show of like, don't talk to him. He's fucking bad. He's betraying everybody. Don't do it.
And then it would put it more in context, like, oh, he is actually trying to save her.
Right. So
while at the same time.
So it's kind of almost like Riley comes to the revelation that she's been fucking up, and she kind of gets a redemption arc. But he recognized that he fucked up early.
Mm-hmm. Very early.
Very early. And he doesn't get he just gets penance. But she gets redemption and he gets penance.
It's realistic. I enjoy that. That's why I feel like they should have been kind of more on equal terms. But
he could have came forward the whole time, though.
He could have.
Trevor still
it was shame.
Yeah. Trevor still, even in the face of at their worst, he could have came forward and say, "Look, I know what this box is. We can't go in there. This is nothing but doom and gloom for the rest of us. All of us are going to die.
You need to quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, we need to stop now." But he didn't. He was too worried about what it was going to make him look like. Then
he cared about what Riley thought of him.
Yeah.
Right. Well, like when she went to the bathroom and he took it, and then she ran outside to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's cruel, but he could have laid her out.
It's
you know
true.
what I mean? It's like, look, you're too far in. Your brother's already fucking gone. Even without saying it and admitting guilt, he could have been like, I'm going to stop this right now. And, I mean, if he had to fucking knock her out and run with it, because this isn't like abuse. This is like, I'm trying to save your fucking life.
I would have liked to see where he tried to smash her with a hammer.
And then the hammer shattered to a billion pieces.
It could have.
Or he could have took it right back to Roland and stabbed him with it.
Which is what he really should have done all the time.
Yep.
But the fact that he doesn't makes him a better character.
I see it both ways, though. Riley is the one character in the whole thing. She has a lot of naivety, and in the process of all of that, like, she was played on because she has weakness. Riley's weakness was preyed upon by Trevor, and of course, Trevor was preyed upon
by Roland.
Yeah.
And Roland preyed on everybody to get what he wanted.
Leviathan preyed on Roland.
True.
And Space and Time preyed on Leviathan.
So in the end, like, Riley is the quintessential good human being.
Mm-hmm.
And she loses so much, but in the end, she still asks for nothing. She realizes everything that she has lost is gone. I was really hoping that she wasn't going to pick anything. Like, when it come down to it, after she learned about Roland and what happened with him with his whole deal.
Like Meccano heart.
Yeah. It made me realize that Riley would be better off walking away from it all than trying to get anything or obtain anything.
Cut your losses. It's too late.
Yeah.
You've already lost. You can either lose more or just be done with it.
And you know what? I think the filmmakers made the best choice, not just by having her say no, but by not acknowledging whether or not she regrets it.
Right.
Because having her say no is the best resolution. But implying that she might regret that.
That just adds...
That's genius.
That adds to the lament. That makes the lament even more. Because now it's not just, I've accepted normal suffering. Mm-hmm. It's also, well, I just compounded it.
Yeah, I just made it worse.
Because now I'm going to always question my decision.
What if?
Yep. Until the end, I will always wonder, what if I had made that choice? Would it have been okay? Would this have been the one choice that they would not have twisted?
So I actually have a question for you two. If they made a sequel, would you want her to return?
Riley?
No.
Yeah, let her story be over.
I'm okay with people having a ending. I'm
only asking because they really played Kirsty out to hell in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, she went to hell. But, like, there wasn't much of her story left, but they kind of force-fucked her into that movie. And it works. She's great in it. and everything she does is great, but it almost feels like she doesn't belong there. So I don't know if Riley would have the same effect.
No, and I'm with Mark on it. She's had hers. She's had her story.
She suffered enough.
Right.
That's a Smith & Wesson, and then you had your 6.
There is so much that you can do to somebody and be okay, like going, shit, they made it. Like that was tough. But if you put her back into that mix after you knew everything that she's lost in the beginning, like, the idea that, right now, if it is tied up and left as it is, at least we know that she still has Colin in her life. And that's enough for people like that. You know what I mean? It's not
for
like,
a happy for a happy ending. That's enough.
Yeah, that's enough for her to at least walk away with. And the same with Colin. Colin lost just as much as Riley did. They lost their roommate. They lost, his boyfriend. Like, he has lost just as much as Riley. So honestly,
he lost the spine.
Yeah.
I don't know how he's walking after that.
He almost got cut to ribbons by fucking wire.
Yeah.
That was vicious looking.
I cringe, man.
Oh, man. Yeah,
when
that
she
was
pulls
tough.
the wires around
So
him,
good.
I'm like, because I can just think about it. I can feel it.
You could feel the fucking
Yeah.
blood cutting off circulation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But after what both of them went through, I mean, of course, he had a lot more agony than she did in a lot of ways. Like, in the end,
I would say they suffered equally. He suffered more physically, but her boyfriend turned out to be the fucking worst human being ever on her. So
right. So, I mean, like I said, they each equally lost, a great deal. And the fact that they can both kind of walk away from this and go home and, I don't know, put their head on a pillow and actually breathe. I don't want to see anything else happen to them.
I like the implication that they can't do that, though. They'll never be able to just sit down and breathe again.
No, the lament configuration.
Exactly.
They're suffering. They will always suffer.
Yeah.
So that's why I would figure that's why they would bring her back. See, Hellraiser above any other franchise is the kind of franchise I want to see. If they make sequels, I want to see a Van Helsing or a Dr. Loomis. I want someone to actively seek out the boxes and say, no, these aren't meant for us. Try and lock that shit away. Riley probably isn't that person, but I want to see someone do it.
Well, I mean, you made that case in point. A Dr. Loomis or a Van Helsing, those are both people that are professionals in their trade. Riley knows, I mean...
Well, she knows everything now, but she does. To her, that's forbidden knowledge. She doesn't want it.
Look at Roland, all the notes Roland had. He knew exactly what that box was, where it came from, its origins,
Which is
all
surprising
the
that he didn't realize how bad he was about to get fucked.
Right. Well, he was blinded by the lust for power. It didn't matter. He was like, I'm going to summon Leviathan, and it's going to give me whatever the fuck I want.
Which, real quick, you mentioned you watched a bunch of videos. What did you see on it?
That was it. That the director had discussed that it was a Cenobite.
Okay, so he is becoming a Cenobite.
That's what the director had said.
Good. That's how it should be.
And there's also varying interpretations, but like you said, here's what I did notice. So, number one, that looked extremely painful.
Dude, having your cheeks ripped apart and then stapled to this giant gold angel. Fuck,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, so I don't... And once again, we don't know what his position is, but he's up in the crucifix position, so it's some kind of holy. Even if it's inverse, it's holy. What I noticed is, I wonder if everyone that's a Cenobite, the ones that had eyes, did they all have his eyes, where they were black, looked like they were tattooed?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were darkened.
Especially the Weeper. The one without the...
Yes.
That one particularly, it stuck out.
So that makes me wonder if all of the Cenobites don't or didn't start out truly enjoying pain. Because, number one, he looked like, as his flesh was being fucking just ripped off, he looked like he was in just disbelief.
Yeah, almost like he didn't feel it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There was like so much shock and so much pain that he just was like, no, this isn't real.
But it ended with a smile on his face.
Well, but he looked into the void. And that was a thing I noticed. Because sometimes when people describe pain, they're like, it was like a blinding white light. It was so painful that it was blinding. So he's staring off into this white light, and it's just radiating at him, and it's doing whatever it wants to him, and however it sees fit, he's its plaything. And then when it's done, his eyes turn black.
Yep.
So, but then he's like, you can see the body language kind of relax. Like, oh, no, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if it can be reversed. You know what I mean? Like, he's now turned into a Cenobite, and then in order for him to be what it needs him to be, the Leviathan's like, "Brr."
So it makes him what it shapes him in its image.
Right. So their eyes turn black because they've been, for lack of a better term, brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
So could it be reversed? Could you, in a way, take that brainwashing away, and then let them feel the suffering that they had before? Like, what have I been doing to people? This is terrible.
If Hellbound is to be believed, yes. Because remember, Dr. Chenard, the fifth Cenobite, shows up and just like, I'm taking over this operation.
Right, yeah.
And he starts a fight with the Cenobite, which is the best goddamn thing ever.
Yeah, it was pretty wicked.
And then he starts taking him out. But every time he hits Pinhead, he becomes more and more human until he's finally fully human. And he takes out his scythe and he just looks at Kirsty and he's like, thanks. And then he dies.
Right. Okay.
So, closing thoughts? Is this the new Hellraiser for you?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I think we made our opinions pretty clear on it.
You could call me a pinion head. I got nothing.
Word.
No, I do think the first two are better, but in almost every way, this movie just demolishes them visually.
Part of the thought I have on it is this movie so good just because it's breaking free of typical TV right now, typical movies, and they're like,
also 8 fucking sequels that are just garbage.
And then someone was just like, hey, let's just make a movie that doesn't have an agenda.
I really like to think that because they have gay people who are not in your face gay. They have a strong woman character who constantly fucks up and constantly pays the price for it.
But in the end learns a lesson.
That's 2 tropes right there. Smashed. They have a female Pinhead. They gender flipped someone, and it wasn't a problem. It wasn't in the way. It's not like,
right.
Oh, I'm a girl. That makes me the better Pinhead.
No, very few people. I've heard no negative comments on the fact that Pinhead's female now.
Other than, I'm too bad it's not Doug Bradley.
Yeah, he's 70 years old, so he
only got his green card like 2 years ago.
Somebody else has to take the mantle eventually, you know. I mean, if it's a series that wants to keep flourishing, it's got to do something different. So
once again, I fucking love her as Pinhead. So good.
It was pretty good.
I mean, she was able to emote without fucking emoting.
She sold me in the trailer. Just her voice, the way they not synced. What is it? Like symphonized it.
Right.
What is that called? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Synthesized.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, the way they fucked with it, you know. What do you pray for?
Well, and you notice that she has like Leviathan machinery in her throat.
Yeah, I don't actually know what that's supposed to be. I mean, clearly it's altering her voice, but
my point is like the mouth of Sauron. She's the voice.
Ah, okay.
She's the voice of the Leviathan.
And since she is the priest, that makes sense. Which, again, that's another Clive Barker thing. He hated the name Pinhead. He never, ever wanted that name for Pinhead. So he only wrote one other book with him called... Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. But basically, Pinhead is trying to get the devil's armor. Lucifer is dead, and he's trying to receive his armor so he can become the new devil, become the king of hell. And he's only referred to as the Hell Priest. The book ends with Lucifer coming back to life and being like, bitch, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
Right.
And he rips Pinhead to pieces. But the fact that he refers to him solely as the Hell Priest is like, oh, I guess that's a pretty fitting name. But it's not as catchy as Pinhead.
Right. I gotcha.
Well,
what'd you think?
I think it's great. I think it's probably one of the best horror movies that we've had in a long time.
I love it because it's so great.
I thought the story was good, and the character design was really well thought out. I thought all the actors were really well flourished and delivered, and I'm looking forward to talking about it when we do Hellraiser, the original. I'm ready to break that baby down too.
I'll have to. I haven't watched them in a few years. I'll have to rewatch them.
We'll watch them together.
Ooh, it'd be like a date.
As I say, I've watched
Incest
2
date.
times here recently, the original and this one, and it holds up really good against the original. Like, I was really shocked why I didn't side by side compare them, but it was enough. I've watched them in close proximity enough to where they did a really good job. They captured the essence without throwing it away in the same process. So
Agreed.
I really liked it.
I do wish they had a scene like Frank coming back to life, though.
That was more Clive Barker trying to make.
That is a waltz from hell. I loved it.
So, but yeah.
But yes. What, did I exaggerate when I told you how good it was?
No.
Good.
But like Mark and I were just like jaws on the floor, Tom and Jerry with the tongue rolled out. We're completely flabbergasted because you text and you're like, "Oh, it was great. I'm gonna sell my first children to whoever to pay for the sequel." We were surprised because you're normally pretty pessimistic about shit.
But this is a movie that not only met but exceeded all my standards.
Right.
And this might be Hellraiser might be my favorite franchise just out of the 2 movies that we have. And it knocked it out of the ballpark.
I'm glad you're happy. I really, truly am.
Me too.
Well, I'm glad.
Me too.
I'm glad that we're going to be doing another Hellraiser cast then.
As am I.
But yeah, catch us soon for that.
I'm gonna dress up as Pinhead.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I'll be Butterball because I'm fat.
I'll just have the latex mask.
I'm Mark.
I'm Josh.
I'm Forrest.
We are GamerDA, and I guess this is it, right?
We'll tear your soul apart. We have such sights to show you.
GamerDA.com.
Very well said. Gamer Discretion advised on Facebook.
Twitter, GamerDA1.
And you can email us at podcast@gamerda.com. Enjoy your Halloween, folks.
Deuces.